When humanity transgresses the bounds of justice and morality, the response is inevitable. This is the tale of Sodom and Gomorrah, cities razed by their depravity, yet also an enduring cautionary narrative. A warning that even in our modern era, the reverberations of those cities still echo. But why did this occur, and what lessons can we glean from this tragic account? Prepare yourself for a journey back in time, where the hidden truth of Sodom and Gomorrah will be unveiled, and you will see what transpired there could very well recur. The Bible recounts the tale of two cities that have become emblems of moral decay and impending destruction, Sodom and Gomorrah. Situated on the shores of the Dead Sea, these cities, in their heyday, brimmed with prosperity, boasting a lively populace and a burgeoning economy. Yet beneath this facade of success, a profound corruption festered within. Over time, the inhabitants of these cities strayed from the tenets of justice and benevolence, supplanting divine values with self-serving and merciless practices. The scriptures provide us with insights into how these cities became the epicenter of a society where lack of compassion and morality prevailed. What initially appeared to be a prosperous society soon revealed itself to be a reflection of corruption and immorality. This scenario, far from being an anomaly, raises profound questions that resonate even today. What factors contributed to their precipitous downfall? What actions provoked the wrath of Jehovah? And most importantly, what lessons can we glean from this history? To comprehend this, it is imperative to delve into the streets of Sodom and Gomorrah, exploring the acts of violence and depravity that unfolded and the erosion of humanity among its inhabitants. Sodom, the larger of the two cities, was marked by its rampant violence and immoral practices. Over time, its inhabitants grew so callous to the suffering of others that any semblance of compassion seemed to have vanished. Society itself devolved into a landscape of power abuses, the exploitation of the vulnerable, and a complete apathy toward pain. It was as if the divine principles that espouse love for one's neighbor and justice had been utterly erased by human wickedness. This was the backdrop that Jehovah could no longer condone. Jehovah's anger was not ignited by a simple act of disobedience, but by the accumulation of decades, if not centuries, of transgressions. The cities were consumed by such profound moral corruption that there was no room left for repentance or transformation. Biblical history recounts that, in his infinite wisdom, Jehovah resolved to act decisively. He dispatched messengers to warn the inhabitants that their destruction was imminent, offering a final opportunity to alter the trajectory of their lives. One of the central figures in this narrative is Lot, nephew of Abraham, who, despite dwelling in Sodom, was renowned for his principles of justice and kindness. Lot and his family were the sole recipients of and responders to the divine warning. The story explicitly highlights the dichotomy between those who heeded the call of reason and those who succumbed to the blindness of immorality. Lot, his wife and daughters were rescued from destruction, but not without a profound sacrifice. However, Lot's wife, casting a glance back at her former home and possessions, was transformed into a pillar of salt, a poignant symbol of her inability to fully relinquish the sins of her past. Why was this destruction so severe? Because, according to the scriptures, the sins of those cities were so great that society as a whole had become irredeemable. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah serves as a stark warning. When a society strays from justice, compassion, and truth, the consequences can be catastrophic. However, the question remains, could this have been averted? Jehovah extended numerous opportunities for repentance, but they were spurned. Before delving into the further intricacies of this compelling narrative, I'd like to inquire about your perspective. Have you contemplated the profound influence societal choices wield over the collective future? Kindly remember to subscribe to the channel to avoid missing subsequent videos. Should you possess any illuminating insights regarding our discourse, please feel free to share them in the comments below. What are your interpretations of the denizens of Sodom and Gomorrah's conduct? Let's engage in a fruitful conversation. Throughout the centuries, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah has been relayed as a moral tale, a divine warning about the consequences of immorality. However, do we truly grasp the lesson Jehovah intended to impart? The message of Sodom and Gomorrah transcends the mere destruction of two ancient cities. It delves into the immutable principles that govern human conduct. God's justice transcends the passage of time, and His expectations of us today remain steadfast in the principles of compassion, justice, and benevolence, eternally foundational to a flourishing society. In our times, it is hardly difficult to perceive how egoism, greed, and a lack of empathy have permeated numerous facets of human existence. In a world where the pursuit of power and wealth frequently supersedes concern for others, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah endures as a timeless lesson. Each of us must introspect. Are we forging a society grounded in the principles of justice and compassion, or are we permitting the shadows of immorality to engulf our collective life? We can glean wisdom from the downfall of these cities, and more importantly, can we avert the same tragic fate? The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was not an isolated incident, but a reflection of what occurs when principles of justice are disregarded. In the modern world, the pursuit of power, wealth, and status can lead to moral decay, if it is not tempered by care for others and respect for their dignity. In many parts of the globe, we witness a growing disregard for human worth, where the most impoverished and vulnerable are marginalized, while the elite become increasingly detached from the realities of ordinary people. The lesson we can draw from this tale is that, as individuals and as a society, we must cultivate empathy, solidarity, and justice. We must recognize that true prosperity lies not merely in the accumulation of material wealth, but in collective well-being. Only then can we avert the social and moral decay that befell Sodom and Gomorrah. Having delved into the events of Sodom and Gomorrah, it is now pertinent to contemplate the lessons we can glean for our own lives. What measures can you undertake to foster a more equitable and compassionate society? The cataclysmic fate of those cities serves as a stark reminder that the erosion of justice and benevolence does not simply impact individuals, but reverberates throughout the entire community. We must begin with ourselves, embodying principles of justice and benevolence in our daily lives. The account of Lot, for instance, illustrates how a shift in attitude and conduct can pave the way to salvation, even amidst pervasive corruption. The encouraging truth is that just as Jehovah provided an escape for Lot and his kin, He also extends to us the opportunity for change and transformation. Thus, we can avert the catastrophe that sealed the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah. As we contemplate the lessons of Sodom and Gomorrah, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Let us delve further into how these ancient narratives can illuminate the path toward a more equitable, compassionate, and prosperous future. Share your personal reflections and insights in the comments below. What wisdom have you gleaned from this video? How can we collectively avert moral decline in our individual lives and societies?